What's up, TGM Television on YouTube, Instagram? We just went live, and we just went live on Facebook. What's up, everybody? Good evening. I am Minister Marcus. Welcome to the Maximize Your Life Bible Study. I come on every Wednesday night, and I give you some things that will help you along your Christian journey. Tonight, I hope something that I say is able to help you as you try to live the Christian life. It's not always easy. Trust me, it's not always easy to live right while you living around people who care nothing about living right or doing right. And so I try to just be an encouragement to people every Wednesday night. So some people may not be able to make it to church or just don't go or just don't like church. And so I thought it would be good if I was to come on Wednesday nights to keep my people from coming out and start going live online. And it turned out that a lot of people were being helped by it, so I figured this would probably be a good platform for me to go live every Wednesday night. And so thank you guys for tuning in tonight. We have been in Deuteronomy. What I decided to do with the Wednesday night Bible study is I decided to go through each book, starting in Genesis, going through a new book every month. And so this month we have made it to Deuteronomy. It is the fifth book in the Bible. If you go back on our YouTube channel, you can see all of the other lessons from the other books to get you up to speed. But tonight, I'm just going to kind of jump right in. I kind of brought you up to where they were last week, and we're in Deuteronomy. But just to give you a little bit of backdrop, the children of Israel have come to the edge of the promised land. They've been free from Egypt, and God has brought them all the way up to the edge of the promised land. Some of the older generation has died off, and now this is Moses talking to the new generation. And so tonight I got two things for you, and then I'm going offline. Hopefully I don't be on too long, and hopefully you get something out of the two things that I'm about to give you. But I think it's a real good lesson, and I hope that you can learn something and enjoy it. All right, so I got two different texts, and they're coming from the 11th chapter and the 12th chapter, and I'm gonna try to read it pretty quickly so you can. And I'm reading it from Big Green tonight, just to give you a little bit better understanding of it. Good evening on Facebook. Good evening on Instagram. How y'all doing? All right, so we're coming. I'm going Deuteronomy chapter 11 first, and then I'm going 12, 1 through 4. All right, so I'm just read some verses from 11 just so you guys can know kind of like what I thought is coming from. So 11, 13 through 18, and it says, and once again, it's a New Living Translation so you guys can understand it. If you carefully obey all the commands I am giving you today, and if you love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul, and if you worship him, then he will send the rains in their proper seasons so you can harvest crops of grain, grapes for wine, and olives for oil. He will give you lush pasture land for your cattle to graze in, and you yourselves will have plenty to eat. But do not let your heart turn away from the Lord to worship other gods. If you do, the Lord's anger will burn against you, and he will shut up the sky and hold back the rain, and your harvest will fail. Then you will quickly die in that good land the Lord is now giving you. So commit yourselves completely to these words of mine. Tie them to your hands as a reminder and wear them on your forehead. And I'm going to skip down. Today I'm giving you the choice between a blessing and a curse. You will be blessed if you obey the commands of the Lord your God that I'm giving you today. You will receive a curse if you reject the commands of the Lord your God and turn from his way by worshiping foreign gods. All right, we're going to 12, 1 through 4. And it reads, these are the laws and regulations you must obey as long as you live in the land the Lord your God of your ancestors is giving you. When you drive out the nations that live there, you must destroy all the places where they worship their gods. High on the mountains, high up in the hills, and under every green tree, break down their altars, smash their sacred pillars, burn their Asherah poles, and cut down their carved idols. Erase the names of their gods from those places. Do not worship the Lord your God in the way these pagan people worship their gods. All right. And so tonight, I got two things for you. I read Deuteronomy in the 11th chapter. Also, I read Deuteronomy in the 12th chapter. And so I got two things for you tonight. And I plan to be quick tonight so we can get offline. All right. And so as I said, Moses is teaching a new generation of people God's laws and God's standards for a living. And up until this point in the book, I think I'm up to about chapter 20. But throughout the book, you will see in many chapters, Moses is stressing that it's their choice whether or not they are going to live God's way. And I want to stress that because I do a lot of evangelism and I talk to a lot of people who evangelize. And I want to get out of the Christians being so forceful, if I would say. But here in the book, I like Deuteronomy because Moses stresses that it's their choice. And I want to stress that God is never going to force you to do something that you don't want to do. Even if it's good for your life, God is not going to force you. And so Moses stresses that they have a choice. And this is what he says: if you live godly, you will have God's favor. But if you live like the mean and hateful nations that you are going to be living around, you will see what it is like to no longer have God's favor covering your life. And I would love to stress that point because before, when I was younger, I heard that God's favor was such and such, but I never understood it completely until I really started getting older. And you know, for those of you who are really gonna be real tonight, I lived straddling the fence for a long time. So I was halfway in and then I was halfway out. You feel me? So it was like I only got to experience God to a certain point because my life was so in and out. You know what I'm saying? Depending on how I felt, you might catch me on a good day, you might catch me on a bad day. But once I really did start to commit and stay on the path, right, I start to see God's favor. And so I want to describe God's favor as a covering, right? As a covering. So think a bit, picture this, that if it's sunny outside, we live in Houston, right? For those of you who are watching from Houston, we live in Houston, and in Houston, it gets extremely hot in about May, June, July, August, September, all the way to October. And imagine yourself being in the heat of the day, but having a covering over you wherever you go. So imagine that. Imagine that you're outside, it's the heat of the day, but you have a shelter that is able to cover. Imagine if it's raining, right? And you have the same shelter. And so I think of God's favor as a covering. Whether sunny or rainy, a covering proves to be useful and helpful. But here's what I want to stress about God's favor: the covering doesn't stop things from happening, but it does give you some shelter. Right? It does give you some shelter. And so I want to point out, this is my number one: doing your best to keep your life under God's favor. Have you ever been outside in the summer without a hat on or without something covering your head? It gets real hot real quick. And it's like you burning up. And sometimes that's how life does. Life has a way of beaming on you, right? And without God's favor to protect you or cover you, different things is able to happen. And so my number one is keeping your life under God's favor. And I like to stress that because sometimes you don't really realize or recognize that it's easy to stray away, or like I did, straddle the fence, like one side is under it, one side is not, but you make yourself available to other things. And here what I like: Moses reiterates not just the good, but he talks about the consequences associated with living outside of God's way, to show how God sometimes will use life's circumstances to get your attention. That God will allow things to happen in your life to get your attention. And if you were like me, because I was real hard-headed and I lived from under God's favor, and God is so loving, right? He's so patient that he don't completely destroy you, but sometimes he will allow some things to happen in your life to get your attention, right? To wake you up or to bring you back, to make you aware of something that you've been purposely overlooking, or to just bring you back to your senses. And Moses stresses, he's like, if y'all do what y'all supposed to do, you don't have to worry about God gonna continue to bless you. But if you don't, God has a way sometime of allowing things. Have y'all ever been there where some things kind of start going haywire in your life that makes you stop in a second and think, like, maybe God is trying to get me to see something. Maybe God is trying to, and I love that sometimes he give us what I call a Jonah experience. And y'all know the story of Jonah. Jonah's supposed to go one place, but he ends up going another place. And God don't kill him, but he just allowed a storm to come on the boat that he's on. He just allowed a storm to get worse and worse. And sometimes God has to do that to get our attention. He'll allow a situation to get worse and worse until you back up a second and acknowledge that maybe God is trying to tell you something. And I don't know if that's for you, but maybe you have slipped from under God's favor and some things might have started happening in your life, right? So God can get your attention, because sometimes we don't hear the way we're supposed to hear. We don't move the way we're supposed to move. We don't jump when God tells us to jump. We don't hear that small, still voice in the back of our minds. And so God sometimes has to allow things to happen in our life. And this is what Moses said to the children, that don't be surprised if God allows some things to happen to bring you back, right? Don't be surprised if some things start going a little haywire, if God starts shaking up some things because you start stepping out of line. But at the same time, he stresses the favor that comes along with living a godly life. And it is not only what God calls things to happen to you to bring you back, but when you are doing the right thing, when you are living the right way, when you are doing your best to walk the way God wants you to walk and keep your intentions pure, even in the world where people's intentions are not pure, where you're trying to be right in the world where people are trying to be wrong, that God will cause things to happen in your life that'll make you prosperous, that'll make you a winner, that'll make you come out on top. And I like to stress that the defining factor in my life is not because I did everything perfect, but is that I hooked myself to God's favor, and God's favor is what gave me the victory on a lot of times. God's favor is what brought me out on top. God's favor is what made me prosperous in places that I probably wouldn't have been prosperous. And so this is my number one. Keep your life under God's favor. As you work to keep yourself pure, God is working to bring lasting things in your life. And this is what I love about God, is that God brings lasting blessings in your life. And David describes it like the evil like grass. And so the grass can grow real quick, but just as quick as it grows, it can get cut down just that quick. But he also describes the godly as a tree planted by the rivers of water. In other words, it may take it a while to get up, but you ain't gonna be able to break it down as quickly. And so I want us to appreciate, and that's why I tell Christians especially, you cannot be weary in well doing, because in due season you will reap if you don't faint. And so one of the things I tell people is keep your life under God's favor. Even though it may not seem like it in the moment, I guarantee you that ultimately God has a way of working things out in your favor. And so that's number one. I've got to keep my life under God's favor. Keep my life under God's favor. All right. And so here's number two, what we read in chapter 12. It says, when you get in the promised land, destroy all the places where they worship their gods, break down their altars, smash their sacred pillars, break their poles, and cut down their carved idols. And what it was God's way of getting them to cleanse the land from idol worship and remove all religious practices that weren't going to be used while serving him. And I'm going to marketize that. Is God saying to them, these things are not going to serve any constructive purpose in your life, so I need you to clear them out. I'm going to say that again. Is God saying to them that these things are not going to serve any constructive purpose in your life, so I want you to clear them out? And I want y'all to hear me when I say this, because we're moving to my number two. There will come a time in your life, whether you're walking with God or not, that you are going to have to evaluate the things that are constructive in your life as opposed to destructive, especially if you're walking with God. There will come a time in your walk with God that he will show you that it's time to clear out some things from your life that are not constructive. And that's my number two. My number two is clear out what's not constructive. Say that. Clear out what's not constructive. I want you to evaluate your life right now. And I'm saying that because it's easy to cling to things that are comfortable, but not necessarily constructive. And I want you to hear me when I say that. It is very easy. We are creatures of habit. So it's easy to stay in a relationship that's comfortable, but not necessarily constructive, to stay in a place that's comfortable, but not constructive. Things that are convenient, but not necessarily constructive in getting you to where it is that you want to be in your life. And so here's my number two. Clear out what's not constructive in your life. Why is that? And this is what God's saying to them. I need you guys to clear this stuff out, because it's not going to help you get to where it is that you want to be in your life. And I wonder how many of us can really evaluate in our lives and really look at some things in our life and say, is this actually constructive for my life, or am I still here because it's convenient? Am I still here because I'm comfortable, or am I here because I'm convenient, or is this actually constructive and moving my life to the place that I want my life to go? And here's my question. Are you willing to step out of what's comfortable and convenient so that you can step into what's constructive and moving your life upward and forward? And I know a whole lot of people who stay in a whole lot of situations, not because they're constructive, but because they're convenient. Not because they're constructive, but because they're comfortable. I want you to look at your life, and this is what God is saying to them. I need you to clear these things out because they're not going to serve no purpose in your life. There came a time in my life that I had to choose what things were constructive and what things were convenient. And sometimes you got to step out of convenient so that you can step into constructive. All right. And I want you to notice this. Notice Moses' words to describe their actions. And this is what he said: burn, break, cut, carve, whatever. And what I took from that is that they are actions that all take effort from you. They take effort from me. That means they're not going to go away on their own. You know what? I wish I could really just talk about that, but I got 5 more minutes. But look, I wish I could get you guys to understand that some things in your life do not happen on their own. You have to intentionally make it move. The destruction of these things will not happen on its own, but you have to intentionally make it happen. And it brings me to a certain scripture in the New Testament. Well, Paul says, when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child. But when I became the man, check it out, I put away childish things. This is what he says. When I became a man, right, the childish things just didn't go away, but I put away childish things. Did y'all catch that? They didn't just go away. I know exactly what the childish things are, but when I became a man, I put the childish things away. It suggests that the putting away is not something that happens by itself, but it happens because you recognize that this thing is no longer useful in my life. This mindset is no longer useful at this stage in my life. My mentality, this is not necessarily useful at this stage in my life. Evaluate your habits. Are these things constructive in your life? The habits that you have. He says, I put away childish things. That means I intentionally let some things go. I intentionally put some things away because they were not what? Constructive to my forward progress. And I wonder if that's you tonight. I wonder if that's you that still have some things in your life that are doing more cluttering in your life than more construction in your life. More things that you are holding on out of convenience and comfortable as opposed to being more constructive and progressive in your life. And I want you to consider that he says, I want you to break this stuff down. Sometimes the things that we have in us, it takes us to break them down. I thought that things would just drop off on their own. I thought that when I came into God, that everything was just going to follow it and I was going to become a perfect Christian. But in reality, there were some things that I had to learn to put up. Come on, put away. Come on, put it away. I think it's time for us to clear out some things that are not constructive in our lives. It's at the end of 2020 and we're going into 2021, and everybody has had a difficult 2020. I don't think my 2020 was as difficult, but I definitely understand that at the end of 2020, that there are some things that I'm going to have to clear out and if I want to be constructive for the next year of my life. And so I want you to consider that maybe God is telling you it's time to clear out some things that are not constructive in your life. And this is what Paul said, I put away childish things. And so here's my question to you tonight as I close. Are there some things in your life that you need to put away? Are there some unproductive, unconstructive things in your life that you probably need to put away? There are some convenient things that are not necessarily constructive that you probably, come on, need to put away. I had a bad attitude. Come on, I had to put that away. I got grown. I had a childish mentality. I had to just put it away. And I wonder if I'm talking to you tonight, I wonder if that's for you. If you realize that there are some things that you got to clear out that are not constructive in your life. So with that, guys, I am done. I got 18 minutes. I did good on the time tonight. 2 simple things to help your spiritual progression. All right. And so I got some things I want to let you guys know. I'm inviting you to our Sunday morning service, right? It starts at 8:30 on Sunday. You can go to our website. And it'll give you all the details. Also, we do give year round to the homeless. So if you do want to be a blessing in that way, you can go to our website also, and it will show you how you can give, the things that you can give. You can link up with one of our people and be a blessing to the homeless, to the homeless people around the city of Houston. Also, if you guys want to support TGM, You don't have to just give. You can buy a shirt. I got on this design. This is one of our new designs. It says overcome every adversity. Some of them say overcome every challenge, overcome every setback. If you do want a shirt, you can get in touch with Miss Babe. She's on Instagram. I mean, she's on Facebook, or you can DM TGM's page on Instagram, or you can, you can connect with me, and I guarantee you, I'll get you your shirt. So with that, guys, thank y'all for watching. I'll see you guys next week on Wednesday at 8:30. We coming up to our last episodes, by the way. For the last two Wednesdays, I'm probably not going to be on that Christmas week and that New Year's week, just to give us some time to reboot, and then we'll be going into set number 6 of the Maximize Your Life Bible study. So thank you guys once again for tuning in. There's the number on Facebook. If you guys want to purchase her, you can DM TGM's page on Instagram. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going offline. Y'all have a good night. Good night. See y'all later on Facebook and bye on TGM Television.